Yeah, we moving up.
What's up, everyone? Commish back here for week 14, the official finale week of TLFL, and one of my personal favorite weeks of the year. Not only do we get to determine who's going to be in and who's going to be sitting at home when it comes to the playoffs, it's time for another annual tradition that I like to do because I am absolutely insane. It's time for the Commish's Playoff Seeding Scenarios. Now, looking at the standings, you guys can probably figure out who's got a good chance of making it in, who's been eliminated, who's not. Been dropping some nifty graphics in the Discord chat, but we're going to take that a step further. Every year, I actually like to go through and calculate what matchups and what scenarios are going to lead to what teams clinch each specific seed in the playoffs. So you'll know exactly who to root for and who to root against, just so that you have a little extra ammunition, a little extra fun heading into week 14. Now, a little bit of disclosure. I am one man, one person, and one brain. In the NFL, they have supercomputers, they have teams of people that are always going to be taking care of this and kind of doing it. So there's always a small chance that there may be an error or there may be a scenario that I did not account for, especially looking at this year's scenarios. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't really trust what's happening. I have a very good track record, only one confirmed error in the many years that I've been doing this, but mistakes may happen. Now, again, looking at this year's standings was really interesting when doing these scenarios. I might say this often, but I think this year I truly mean it. This might be the tightest race for the playoffs that we have ever seen. We only have 3 teams that have already locked up a playoff spot, although the seeding will be determined later, and 3 teams that have been eliminated, which leaves 6 teams fighting for those last 3 spots, which is similar to what we had last year. The thing that makes it actually different this year are both the matchups and the records going into it. Right now, we have 3 teams sitting at 7-6 and 3 teams sitting at 6-7. And what's interesting about those matchups, none of the 7-6 teams are actually going to be playing each other, and none of the 6-7 teams are going to be playing each other. So theoretically, we could end up with 6 teams that all have the exact same record, which is going to be pretty interesting. Now, Freddie's going to be talking about all of those matchups in detail. We really want to focus on what happens once those matchups complete, just the results. So we're going to be going through the scenarios for each of our teams and letting you guys know exactly what is needed to clinch those specific spots. Now, if you want more information on how these tiebreakers are actually calculated, you can check the League Legacy page under our rules section. You'll see a section that has the playoff seeding tiebreaker, or you can check the TLFL Constitution. It has all of the tiebreaker rules broken down for you, as well as some nifty scenarios, because this is a little trickier than it seems. Based on ESPN's tiebreakers, our first tiebreaker is going to be head-to-head, and the second tiebreaker is going to be points for, or the amount of points that each team has actually scored. Now, what makes it a little bit difficult is what happens if you have 2 or more teams that are tied with the same record, and they haven't played their opponents the same number of times. Remember, we had the double matchup play and the single matchup play, so if one person played a team twice, where the other opponent they're tied with only played them once, unfortunately, head-to-head record cannot be calculated, and it will automatically drop down to the points for tiebreaker. Now, if you remember what I said earlier, we could have up to 6 teams and with the exact same record at 7-7, which makes that point for tiebreaker all the more important. And if you actually take a look at just how close some of these point for totals are going into this week, you're really going to have to break out the calculators as the matchups start to finalize to see whether these points for tiebreakers hold as I've calculated them, or if we have some flip-flops. Now, full disclosure, all of the scenarios that we've posted are going to be as of the time of recording, not all of the points for scenarios. You'll see a couple of them in there, the ones that were pretty easy to calculate, but again, someone could score 200, someone could score 70. Things can flip in a heartbeat in any single week, so it would be impossible to calculate for all of those different scenarios. But I give you as much as humanly possible. So without further ado, it's time to present Commish's Playoff Seeding Scenario. Now, of course, before we actually get into the scenarios, we're going to talk about the teams that don't have a shot at all. These teams are officially eliminated, and those are going to be Gators Gat, San Diego Pirates, and Team of Me. Unfortunately, those 3 teams, with their current records, have no chance of making the playoffs, no matter what result happens. Sorry, fellas, you're going to have to sit this one out. Now, the bulk of these scenarios are going to be posted in a document attached to this video and in the Discord. If I sat here and just read through all of those scenarios, probably wouldn't be a very interesting video at all, and I know you guys are all capable of reading yourself, so we're just going to be focusing on the highlights for each of the teams that are eligible. We'll start with Beast Mode. His story, he's guaranteed a bye. No matter what happens, he will be getting a first round bye, but if he wins, he'll claim the #1 seed. If he loses, he gets the #2 seed. Simple as that. Next, looking at the Orlando Leons, we say it's easy as 1, 2, 3. If he's winning his matchup, that means he's claiming that 1 seed, but even with a loss, the furthest he can fall down is the 3 seed. So very easy path to clinching the bye, win and you're in, but even with a loss, he can still claim a win with the right losses. In our next player, return of the Dak, who we say is back in the dance. Since he has that playoff berth already locked up, after missing the playoffs for the last 2 years, it's definitely got to feel good to have that locked up heading into this final week. And the lowest that he can fall will be the 6th seed with some crazy scenarios, but it looks more likely he's going to be getting a top 5 seed no matter how this shakes out. Taking a look at our next team, Fully Automatic, who's looking to stop the bleed heading into the playoffs. Right now, going into week 14, he's riding a 3-game losing streak, even though he started off really hot. It's been cold as of late. If he's able to get a win this week, he might find himself into the playoffs, but with a loss, he does leave that door open for one of those 6 and 7 teams to move on up. So let's see if he can stem the bleeding just a little bit, or if he'll be sitting at home watching on his couch. Next, we have yours truly. Riding into week 14, I actually have the highest playoff odds of those who have not clinched, because the stars have most certainly aligned, and that's mostly due to the tiebreakers that I have. A lot of those teams that are in that middle range, I ended up beating one-on-one, and when it comes to the points for tiebreaker, I am going to be sitting fairly close to everyone else as well. It looks like win or lose, I pretty much have this thing locked up, although there are some crazy scenarios with those points for a tiebreaker that might see me sitting on the outside looking in, but I'm feeling pretty comfortable and confident heading into week 14. From here on out, it does start to get pretty dicey. Next up, we have Dirty Mike and the boys, who's essentially sitting at a 50-50 chance. It's win or go home, and that's due to his points for being at the very bottom of the league. He scored the lowest amount of points of any of our playoff eligible teams, so he doesn't really hold those tiebreakers in many of these scenarios. So if he wins, he's got a decent chance at getting in, but if he loses, it looks like those chances are close to 0. Alex, it's win and in. Next up, we've got Finagle the Bagel Chief himself, who puts the FTB in PFTB. You'll see throughout the document, PFTB is our points for tiebreaker, and Freddie holds that tiebreaker since he's sitting in the top 3 currently with that tiebreaker, although he could get jumped by some of those playoff eligible teams. As long as he's able to put up a strong amount of points, he looks like he holds the strongest chance of any of our 6 and 7 teams to make it because he holds that top tiebreaker. But he still has to win his matchup first to even have a chance, and from there he's going to need a little bit of help from some of the other teams. Next up, Bay Lake Showboats, who's looking to avoid a historic collapse. You guys might remember a few years ago we had Darren, who was looking like he was going to lock up a playoff seed probably about 7 or 8 weeks into the season, and then rode a 7-game losing streak, missing the playoffs entirely. Nico's looking like he might follow in those footsteps, currently on a 4-game losing streak heading into week 14, and needs to avoid this historic collapse with a win to even have a chance at the playoffs, even though he had such a hot start. If he loses, he's out. But even if he wins, he's definitely going to need a little bit of help, and he's going to need Freddie to lose his matchup as well. And last, and most certainly least, we have 7-Minute Drill, our rookie team, sitting on the outside looking in with the lowest possible playoff chance of all of our teams. It's really going to take a miracle, so you better start praying to the football gods, because it's going to take an amazing performance from you in your matchup and so many teams to lose in order to even have a relatively close chance of doing it. It seems nearly impossible, but hey, the impossible sometimes happens in this league. Chris, worst of luck to you, but don't get your hopes up. And that'll pretty much do it for my part of the playoff scenarios. Again, couldn't go over everything in detail, but the full document will be posted both in the Discord as well as attached to the bottom of this video and down in the description below. We hope you guys enjoy these scenarios. Hopefully it does enrich the season going into it. And for our TLB members, I do apologize for not getting to you guys. Some of the sleeper issues made it a little difficult to actually calculate it, and to be honest, things are a little bit different over in the Sleeper League, so we're just going to have to wait until next year to see how those playoff scenarios are going to be changing. My name's Commish. Worst of luck to you guys. It's win or go home.